Sills, National Football Show. Welcome aboard. Hope your weekend was awesome. Hope your President's Day, and for some of you, a day off is going great. It was one of the better sports weekends without the NFL I can remember. Now, look, I didn't watch any of the NBA All-Star game. I watched some of the skill stuff. Okay, I did. But if the NBA guys don't care about the game, why should I? If they don't care, Kobe said it 2 years ago, this game needs to be revamped. And why would I care if the NBA guys don't care? So, it's kind of like egotistical for the NBA. But then again, the NBA has been egotistical for the last couple of years. So let me get this right. And Tone, help me out if I'm wrong on this. So the NBA pulls the All-Star game out of Charlotte because they have tough laws against transgender, but move it to a city in Salt Lake City that has some of the most restricted rules on the planet for transgender people. I don't get it. Your messaging's lost. I don't get it. You pull it out of Charlotte and put it in one of the toughest cities in the country when it comes to rights to people. That's why I don't watch the NBA. Okay? That's why I don't watch it, because you pick and choose what you feel like covering, and then you use the sport as a political vehicle to beat us over the head with. Okay? But I did watch the XFL. I liked the XFL. I thought they did a really great job. By the way, do you know where I spent my Friday night? I was just telling Tone. I was at Crenshaw High School, and my wife had a rugby game there, and some of the high school kids were there. And one of the coaches came over and said, "Hey, could you speak to my high school guys? We're over here watching, and we're doing a camp here." And I said, "Absolutely." So there's Big Sills in South Central on Friday night. I posted it on my Twitter page. And I'm at Crenshaw High School. And I'm talking to all these kids. And boy, great pride that they have. Darryl Strawberry went to school there, I believe. Ice-T went to school there. So I'm texting all these guys and telling them, "Hey, man, Big Sills is down here at Crenshaw High School." I had such a great time. What a great community. And by the way, I think Big Sills now may be doing some coaching for Crenshaw High School on Fridays and Saturday nights if they need any help. I go, "Hey, Coach Griffin, if you guys are short a man, let me know, man. I'll come up there and help you guys out." That was so cool to be part of that and to be rolling around there, Jackie Robinson Stadium, and just sitting there talking to some of the kids. That was really an honor for me to be there. I see some of you guys talking about, Crenshaw in LA. In South Central, Big Sills was there on Friday night, man. I had such a great time. Such a great time. Tone asked me about Jim Leonard. I know some of you are asking about some of the candidates for defensive coordinator. Looks like that offensive coordinator is going to go to Brian Johnson. There is a ton of news. A ton of news. By the way, I'm going to give final grades out to the 2022 Eagle roster here in a second. And we'll do it together here. By the way, I also put down a list of the top free agents that Howie could maybe target. That's starting real soon. In about 3 weeks, free agency is going to start. Franchise tagging is going to start in a couple weeks. New Year's right around the corner. Hey, by the way, the Eagles may have a brand new defense. And for some of you today, the legendary Pro Football Hall of Famer Tony Dungy will join us at 4:30. I will ask Tony Dungy if you can build a roster around a dual threat guy. How many years would you give Jalen Hurts? So we are going to have at 4:30 Coach Dungy with us. By the way, we got a hell of a 3-day run here. Seth's going to join us tomorrow at 3:30. And then Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern time, The new head football coach of the Carolina Panthers, Frank Reich, is going to join us. That'll be 4 p.m. on Wednesday. Seth tomorrow at 3:30. Tony Dungy today at 4:30, and we welcome you aboard with us here. Appreciate you coming aboard with us now. All right, I'm going to say this to you. So I was reading some of Peter King's stuff, and Peter King said that the Eagles offered Jonathan Gannon more money to be the defensive coordinator than the head football coach at Arizona. Is that true? Why would the Eagles offer Jonathan Gannon more money than what the Arizona Cardinals offered him to be a head coach? I don't believe the story. I don't believe Jonathan Gannon. Maybe around. So you're telling me the Eagles offered him $7 million? He's being paid $7.5 million in Arizona to be new head football coach. You're telling me the Eagles are going to pay him as much as Nick Sirianni? It's BS. No way. So wait a minute. Yale, I get the continuity. But wait a minute, Yale. You're going to pay him as much as Nick? Really? Guy shit the bed in the Super Bowl. I don't believe the story. I don't believe it. You're going to pay him more money than Sirianni, or as much. Okay? But, okay, and someone goes, Brian goes, why would he lie about it? Brian, why would the Eagles pay that? Why would the Eagles pay that? Here, so let me pay $7 million for a defensive coordinator. He would triple the number of what coordinators make in the NFL. Coordinators in the NFL, they make around $3.5 million. They're going to pay him $7 million? I believe Nick Sirianni's getting a new contract. I think Nick's getting a new contract. If Jonathan Gannon is throwing that out, they're going to give Nick Sirianni more money and a couple more years on his current deal. That's kind of a precursor here, in my opinion. That kind of tells you a little bit where they are. See, giving Nick another couple, hey, his first 2 years, let me ask you this. Let's go here for a second. How many people think that Matt LaFleur is a good coach? By the way, let me show you something here. Hey, and for the record, here, let's not use Matt LaFleur because he hasn't made a Super Bowl. Let's use Zach Taylor. How many people think Zach Taylor is a good head coach, the guy in Cincinnati? He's been to 2 straight AFC championship games. He's been to a Super Bowl. He's more accomplished than Sirianni. Or is he? Or is it Burrow? Matt LaFleur, great record. Is it Rodgers or him? How do you know if Nick's a good coach? Shit, Matt Nagy is a former NFL Coach of the Year. 2 years later, he was fired. Wait a minute, Yale. How do you know Nick's good? And it's not Jalen. How do you know? How do you know any of these guys are good? Hey, if you don't have the right signal caller, I don't give a shit what your name is or who you are. Look at Bill Belichick in New England. You think Bill's a good coach right now? Bill looks to me like Bill Belichick Cleveland. These coaches, in my opinion, getting big-time contracts, why? If you don't have the right quarterback or a quarterback, I don't care who you are. You could be the greatest coach and have the greatest resume like Bill Belichick and not have any success whatsoever. How do you know? So you're going to extend Nick Sirianni? I don't know. Why? Well, Sills, he's gone to the playoffs 2 years in a row. Dude, Matt LaFleur has an insane win percentage. Is he a good coach? I can't tell. Extend Nick for what? Why would I extend a guy that has no say in the building? He has no say on assistant coaches. You think Nick Sirianni's doing the interviews for offense and defensive coordinator? Isn't Howie making it very evident to you? Why would you extend Nick Sirianni when Howie's doing all the heavy lifting? Doesn't that kind of go into the wind of wasted money? This is Howie's ball. This is his bat and ball. This ain't Nick Sirianni's bat and ball. You think he's actually going to have the final say on who the coordinators are? Come on, man. He's not going to have any say whatsoever. Well, he may have some input, but he ain't going to have any say. It's going to come down to the owner and the GM. Those two dudes are going to make the call. Nick's got some say. I'll say that to you. He's probably got some say. Okay? But why would you extend Nick Sirianni? What has he done? How he brought the guys in, how he hired the coaches, how he put the scheme together, how he put the defense together, how he drafted Jalen. What has Nick done to deserve a raise? Well, he's gone to the playoffs. Is that really him? Is that really him? Keith asks a great question. Well, who's a good coach then? The coach with the quarterbacks. How he likes him, that's not a reason for me to give a guy a contract extension. He fired Doug Peterson, my friends. Doug's a better coach. Doug went to another place. See, that's to me the sign of a really good coach. You can go to two places and win. Doug Peterson's at two different places and winning. Won a Super Bowl in Philly. Now he's down in Jacksonville and he's winning again. Andy Reid, same thing. Andy Reid was winning with Alex Smith. Not to the level he's winning now with Patrick Mahomes. Doug's a great coach. He's Nick. So you think Nick could go to Indianapolis and be the head coach and put that team in the playoffs? I don't think so. You think he can go to New Orleans? Not sure about that. So why would you extend him? Doug pushed back on Howie in 18? Yeah. Well, that's because he won a Super Bowl and he wanted some say in the building. All right, we'll continue more on this conversation. Don't forget, 4:30, Coach Tony Dungy will be with us, and we'll talk Jalen Hurts and Eagles with him. I want to do something here. I want to do the final grades of the year. And I did this last night. I went back and watched some games, especially the Super Bowl, the playoff games, last couple games. Obviously, the ones that Jalen didn't play in, I didn't watch. And what I did was, this is the season-ending grades. And where I'm going here, you walk into your head coach at the end of the year's office, and along with the general manager. And what they do is they give you a heads up on what they thought of your season and what is expected of you this coming season. For some people in the Eagle building, that conversation's not going to happen. There's going to be people moving on, and there's also going to be people that are going to be asked to step up. Every year, you walk into your coach, when you clean out your locker, you go in and talk to your coach, then you talk to the general manager. Then your agent follows up with the coach and with the general manager. Barry goes, let me hear your thoughts on Jim Leonhard. I think he's aggressive. One of the guys that they're interviewing for defensive coordinator. Again, it's hard to get a thought on a guy and whether or not he fits until I know what's coming back. Barry, you could have Jim Johnson, but if you don't have the personnel to fit the scheme, what do we like? Watch this. Vance Joseph, you know how people keep talking about him? Why would the Eagles even entertain Vance Joseph when he failed with Hassan Reddick in Arizona? And he's been really suspect as a coordinator, in my opinion. He's a 34 guy. The Eagles have no linebackers in that building. Maybe a Tampa 2 guy could save Nakobe Dean or elevate Kobe Dean, however you want to look at it. But second glance, Vance Joseph, I have no interest in him. I don't think he's a good coordinator. I think he's a suspect coordinator. Okay? I think he's a suspect. Peter, did you have a super chat? Hey, Tone, if I missed the super chat, please put it back up there. I personally look at Vance Joseph. I don't see it. I don't see where he fits in. Sirianni's a great coach, and he is young birds. Okay. Hey, I don't know if he's a good coach or not. I saw Ray Rhodes win a Coach of the Year award in Philadelphia. They fired his ass too. I don't know if he's a good coach. Okay. Lotus, appreciate you coming in from San Francisco, one of my favorite areas in the country. He's a great coach so far? Really? I don't know about great coach. How can you tell? All the coaches that have been hired are all Howie's guys. He had nothing to do with the coordinators that were just hired to become head coaches. He had nothing to do with them. He had say, but no final decision. All right, let's go into here. I want to do the 2022 final grades here. And organizations do this with all their players. Let's start on the defense. You tell me if you think I'm in the room with what you're saying. Okay? Brandon Graham, I gave him a B. I thought he showed leadership. I thought he showed the Eagle way. I thought they limited his snaps, but he was very productive. In my opinion, this is one of the better years that Brandon Graham has had with the Eagles. And get this, they reduced his role. I really enjoyed him this year on the Eagles. I enjoy him around the locker room. I enjoy how he communicates with everybody in the community. I'm a big fan. Okay? Lotus, thank you so much, my friend. I gave Brandon Graham a B. And I would love to have him back. By the way, I highlighted all the ones that are free agents. Obviously, he's one of them. Love it. Brandon Graham, I gave him a B. Fletcher Cox, I gave a C+ to. At 32 years of age, I thought he had a rocky first half of the season. But I thought the last 8 games of the year, and actually, would this be fair? I thought since Pittsburgh, I thought that Fletcher picked his game up and was more productive from Pittsburgh on when they got Joseph and they got Ndamukong Suh. I gave him a C+. And by the way, what we're doing here is we're giving final grades to the 2022 Philadelphia Eagle roster. I gave Fletcher a C+. And 32 years of age, do I think he goes somewhere else? He'll probably become somebody like Ndamukong Suh chasing a ring. That's okay. He'll be welcome back in the building. He will. I thought Fletcher had a really good second half. I thought he was a little bit washed up in the first half of the season. Javon Hargrave, what grade would you give him this year? And by the way, I heard the guys on Sports Take talking about him. Hey, friends, he's going to command about $16 million. He makes 12.9 now. He's going to command $16 million. So know that. He's going to command that much. What grade would you give Javon Hargrave? Let me give you my assessment of his season. William says A. Brian says A. I think he is a very average run stopper. I do think he was the Eagles' best interior lineman. His 11 sacks were spectacular. Okay? When you get 11 sacks from an interior player, it's really a fantastic job and a great year. And he did it in a free agency year. Dan, would you hire Jim Tomasula or Jared Mayo to be the DC? I want to know what the personnel is. 85. I got to know what the personnel is. Tomasula's a 34 guy. I agree with you guys. I think Javon Hargrave had a B season. And I think he was really good this year. I don't think he really had a great Super Bowl. I thought he played well in the playoffs. I watched his game. He was great in the Pittsburgh game. I think his run stopping is C+. His pass rushing. Plus, remember something about Hargrave. He's better in a 1 technique than he is in a 2 technique. And if you bring a 34 guy in, a three down D-line, 4 linebackers, that means you're going to have to go in free agency and get a ton of linebackers, and you better have 3 horses up front to play that 34. And I don't think the Eagles have the horses to play a 34. Now, I think a 34 fits Hassan Reddick better than being in the 43. But to me, I think Hargrave, I think he really did a great job in a 1 technique, and I thought he did a great job pass rushing. What about Josh Sweat? What do you think, Josh Sweat? The year he had. What grade would you give Josh Sweat this year in 2022, the season he had? I gave him a B. I think he improved his game. Now, RJ, I'll say this to you. I thought he rockied it a little bit too much for me in the beginning of the year. I thought he was going like this. He was up and down a little bit in the first half of the season. But as the season went on, I thought Josh Sweat picked his game up and proved to me he could be a 3-down lineman. Okay? I didn't really think he was a 3-down lineman. And as the year finished, I went away going like this. Maybe the most improved guy outside of Milton Williams has been Josh Sweat. I think Josh Sweat had a pretty good season this year. And I really like his future with the Eagles. I think he could develop into being somebody like the guy down in Carolina, the guy Burks. I think he could develop into something like that. I don't know if he could be as productive as that, but I think he could develop into something good. I gave him a B. What about Kaiser White? He's also a free agent. Grade would you give him? Kaiser White is a tackling machine. Thought he got beat a couple times late in the year. I thought he got worn out a little bit at the end of the season, too. I thought we started seeing him get a little bit worn out. My only problem with Kaiser White, he's a little undersized, but folks, the guy behind him, he's even more undersized. Nakobe Dean's a small dude. And do you think that Nakobe Dean, see, here's what I don't like, the conversation we're going to have here. You could probably get Kaiser White for $5 million. I think that's worth keeping him because I'm not sure that Nakobe Dean can play. I don't know if he can replace the production. I have not seen it. Do I call Nakobe Dean a bust? No, but I'll tell you this. He's got bust traits in him. Same thing with Jordan Davis. I'm not calling them a bust, but there's some traits that you're seeing. Lazy with Davis, plays high, gets knocked off the ball, was a non-factor in the second half of the season. Nakobe Dean was no factor, never saw the field, and didn't even really play that well in special teams. They've got traits. I'm not calling him a bust, but they got traits there for it. Something to keep an eye on as you go into the mini camps. And when you get ready for free agency, are you going to address the linebacker position or are you going to go into the draft? Remember something. If you guys are going to pay the quarterback the money that's being thrown around, you're going to have to get awful young on defense. And by the way, the Eagle roster, if you start paying Jalen Hurts, will be one-sided. It'll be an unbalanced roster. All your money's on offense. And very little of your money's on defense, which means this. You're going to have to get young and lucky. You're going to have to be young and lucky. Look at Kansas City. Kansas City has one big player and one big price tag, and Chris Jones at $20 million. The rest of those guys are all free agents and rookies. And guys are not paying a ton of money to. Get used to that. Get used to that. You're not going to have the same roster. Even the guys today were addressing it going, wow, this team's going to look completely different. That's why I said it to you last week. The 49ers have the better roster than any team right now in the NFC. And it's not close. The Eagles are not close to the 49ers right now. Not close. Not close. They don't have decisions to make at linebacker with Fred Warner or Nick Bosa or the safety or Trent Williams or Christian McCaffrey or Deebo Samuel. See Batman go like this? It's not true. He thinks the Eagles have a better roster right now when you have 16 free agents. That's being blinded by your loyalty to your team. Javon Hargrave is not an Eagle right now. Brandon Graham's not. Fletcher Cox isn't. Kaiser White's not. Edwards isn't. Bradbury isn't. C.J. Gardner-Johnson's not. Sanders isn't. Sayamalo's not. But he thinks you have the same roster as the 49ers. It's not logical. It's not logical. Sayamalo's not an Eagle anymore. It's going to be up to you if you want to bring him back. Okay? Sayamalo's not coming back. He's going to command $14 million in the open market. He's going to get $70 million. Maybe north of that. Maybe north of that. Edwards, I gave a B. By the way, I gave a C plus to Kaiser White. Okay? Look at Tyler. 49ers are trash. Depending on what you bring back on defense, I'd get ready for your trash pail too. I'd get ready for your trash pail. Remember what I showed you last week? If you allow Jalen Hurts to make the $4 million that he's going to make this coming season, and you paid everyone else to run it back, it would cost you $223 million of a $224 million salary cap with only paying Hurts $4 million. It's not logical to think that you have the money to pay all those people plus Hurts. Wait a minute, Batman. Did you hear what I just said? If you paid everybody raises in market value, it would cost you $223 million to bring the entire team back intact. That's paying Hurts $4 million. Say you want to restructure. Who are you restructuring? Lane? Okay. You're going to restructure a 32-year-old corner. You're actually going to give Darius Slay $10 million of his base $18 million. You think that guy's got another year in him? I don't. He was falling apart at the end of the season. I would trade his ass in the offseason. I would trade Darius Slay in the offseason. Get rid of him while you can. Don't pay him. Watch this. Here's the mistake that you'll make if you give and restructure Darius Slay's deal. If you restructure Darius Slay's deal, you're getting into a position where you wasted money and the player came back and had a bad year. That's how you don't make the playoffs, is making decisions like that. Not saying how he will. I say you trade Slay. TJ Edwards, I think he had a B year. There's going to be a market for Edwards, especially people who want interior linemen to have to stop the run. And if I were people like Minnesota, Carolina, the Packers, the Jets, the Browns, TJ Edwards is going to have a market for that. He's not a great cover guy. But he's going to command at least $7. Someone's going to overpay for TJ Edwards. Makes $1 million. Wait, you think he's going to come back for the Eagle $2 million? Come on, man. Hassan Reddick had an A. After a shaky start, to say the least. He finished up with an A and was a force in the playoffs, and you can make the conversation that he was the MVP in the playoffs. Vernon says, so what you're saying, we shouldn't pay Hurts. What would you do? I'm going to get to that here in a minute. I'll talk about Jalen. I got the topics here still to be played. I'm giving this out here. Hang on. I'm going to get to Jalen. I think Bradbury had a B+. He's gone. Gardner Johnson's not coming back. I don't care what anyone on our network or in Philadelphia thinks. He ain't coming back. You know why? Do you know what they're projecting his market value to be? $16 million. He makes $830,000. He's not coming back for anything but top dollar. You're not paying him $16 million. You're not. Bradbury's gone. You got an aging Slay. You got a tough decision to make there because to me, I'd rather keep Bradbury and CJ and trade Slay and draft a rookie. That's what I would do. Dude, CJ Gardner-Johnson is going to command enormous money with enormous suitors. Hey, don't be shocked if you see him in Jacksonville. Remember something. Go around the room with all the teams that have quarterbacks. Watch this. I could see CJ Gardner-Johnson in San Francisco. They got the money. San Francisco could grab Gardner-Johnson. Shit. San Francisco could grab pretty much anybody on your list here. They could grab Sayamalu. They're not paying the quarterback. San Francisco will be a player. San Francisco, look at this. Mr. Rudy, you're dead wrong. San Francisco has a ton of money. You're paying $1 million for Trey Lance. You're paying $900,000 for Brock Purdy. Jimmy Garoppolo is a free agent. He's gone. You're paying right now $2 million for the quarterback position. $2 million. Blankenship, I think he had a C year. Thought he was good. Darius Slay, I thought he had a B. He's going to command enormous money on the open market too. On the offensive side, let's start with the right tackle. Lane Johnson had the highest grade, in my opinion, of any Eagle this past season. He was A+. Outside of missing a couple games because of the injury, he was spectacular. He's the best football player on the team. Lane's an absolute beast. He is a great ball player. Sayamalu had a B. He will command $14 million. That's low, too. He's going to get $70 million. You can't do this. Watch this. Watch this. You can't go like this. I'm going to pay Malata $15 million, Lane $18 million, Jason Kelsey $10 million, $15 million to your right guard, and then turn around and go, well, I'm going to give my quarterback $50. My tight end makes $15, and my wide receiver makes $20. How are you paying for backups in your defense? You can't. It's impossible, and you won't. Sayamalu's 30. He's so young for an offensive lineman. That guy's got 12 years in him. Sayamalu is so young. Kelsey had an A year. I pray he comes back. What a great football player. I think Landon Dickerson had a B+ year. Great year for the kid. Thought he got nicked up a little bit, but he was a force this year. I thought Malata had a B year. And the first half of the season when he got hurt, I think it was the Jets game that he got hurt in that exhibition game. I thought that hampered him for about 10 games. I thought he came on towards the end of the season. Dallas Goedert, if he doesn't get hurt, would have been an A. He had a B year. Really, only reason he didn't get an A was because he got hurt. Fantastic season by him, though. He's a force. Quez Watkins, D+. He sucks out loud. I need a new number 3. The Eagles are horrible at the 3 position there with Quez Watkins. He sucks. Devonta Smith rolled into an A year. I thought he was a little bit light in the numbers midway through the season, but he really picked it up towards the end of the year. Had over 90 catches, A year. A.J. Brown, absolutely A year. I thought he was great. Little disappearing act in the divisional and the NFC Championship game. Showed up in the Super Bowl. I thought he was really a great football player. I would say this to you. He could have been the best trade in the offseason of any player. He was really great. Sanders, B+. I hated his postseason. I hated even giving him a B+. He was terrible in the postseason. He was just terrible. Terrible in the postseason. But his year was a B+, 1239 or whatever it was for the season. The 13 touchdowns, 11 touchdowns that he had rushing, I thought he was fantastic. He had a great year. And now to Jalen Hurts. What would you give Jalen's year? Missed 2 games. Wasn't very good down the stretch. Wasn't very good in the playoffs. Super Bowl, he was spectacular. The NFC playoffs, he was terrible. How do you think he played? I think he was an A too. I think Hurts had an A season. And that's going to lead us into our topic here. I think he had an A year. I think one of the most important things that you could do is look at how he progressed, how the team progressed around him, how everyone around him had career years. A.J. Brown, career year. Devonta Smith, career year. Dallas Goedert was on his way to having a career year. Miles Sanders had a career year. Now, I'll say this to you. Is he a product of having so many great players around him? Yes. But at the end of the day, what's he supposed to do? Not utilize them? Because I'll say this to you. Joe Burrow is by far more accomplished in his 2 years starting. Is it 2.5? I think it's 2.5 years. Burrow's more accomplished, okay? He's more accomplished. But still, is he a product of having great players around him? Tone says, Jalen gets an A for me. MVP runner-up, All-Pro, NFC chip in his pocket, Super Bowl berth. A lot of distance traveled, absolutely. Absolutely, all that is A, absolutely. Remember something, Burrow's been to 2 conference championship games in the last 2 years. Been to a Super Bowl himself. Okay, so Jalen has not that accomplished yet. And they both came out in the same draft. So we got to go there with that. Now, one's the first pick overall and the other's a second rounder. Like Tone just said, Jalen's he's had a longer road to have to travel to get to where he is compared to Burrow. Burrow, you're getting that job. Then again, too, the Eagles handed that job to him. He never earned it. They handed it to him, but it was the right decision. Burrow didn't earn that job. They handed it to him. So you fulfill what they're thinking you to become, and you become it. It was the right choice. I'm not saying it wasn't by the Eagles. Okay? I'm not saying it. Was Joe Montana a product of Notre Dame? So wait a minute. Richie, Montana won a Super Bowl without Jerry Rice. What are you talking about? And name me one guy on that offense at Notre Dame that won the national championship with Joe. Name me one. Haven Moses? Who? You can't name one guy. Pete Demerel? Off that Notre Dame offense. Vegas Ferguson? Montana won that first Super Bowl with Freddie Solomon as his wide receiver and Bert Cooper and Wendell Tyler. Joe's a different breed. I wouldn't go there. Okay? There was no Roger Craig or Jerry Rice in the backfield with Montana. Montana made those guys. It was Joe the whole way. Okay? It was Joe the whole way. Now you ask yourself this most important question. Is Jalen a $50 million a year guy? I say absolutely not. Some of you are going to go, well, that's the market. Well, then the market is what tears teams apart. All the quarterbacks, when they sign these deals, 90% of them, I looked it up, 90% of them end up taking your roster apart. You either deal them or the quarterback doesn't pan out. But you're gambling that he is as good as Patrick Mahomes. Hey, I'll say this to you. We're going to find out a little bit about Joe Burrow, too. When you pay Joe Burrow $50, $60 million, we're going to find out when T. Higgins or Jamarcus Chase is no longer on that team. You know, they're talking about cutting Joe Mixon. He's the first to go, you know. Joe Mixon just signed a brand new contract a year ago. They're going to cut him in the offseason. You know why? They got to make room for Burrow. Just like with your story. Do you believe, how many people, and Tone, you chime in on this, how many people believe that Jalen Hurts could take that Chiefs team to the Super Bowl with no receivers and a tight end and no running back and a suspect O-line? I don't. Because that's what you could have one day. I'm going to make a point to you here. Jalen Hurts and the roster he has right now or had in 2022 will be the best roster he's ever had in his career. And I'll give you context. Tone, tell me if I'm right or wrong on this one. Well, when Russell Wilson was early in his career, he had Marshawn Lynch. He had a great O-line. He had the Legion of Boom. He had Michael Bennett. He had all those great linebackers. When they paid him, the roster fell apart. It was never the same. Jalen Hurts will never have the same roster that he has now or what he had last year. You'll never have that collection of guys. The league does not allow that. It's nothing to do with Jalen, and it's nothing to do with the Eagles. It's the league. This is how the league operates. Okay? That's why when you find a guy like Mahomes, where you so Jalen loses A.J. Brown and Miles Sanders and Devonta, because Devonta's better than Juju Smith-Schuster. You would have a bunch of Zach Pascals and Quez Watkins and Travis Kelce. That's who Jalen would have, and half the O-line. Can he win a Super Bowl like that and carry a team? I don't think he can. I don't think dual threat quarterbacks can do that. You know why? Guy in Baltimore can't. And whatever you think of the guy in Baltimore, you may think Jalen's better. He ain't that much better. If you do think he's better, he can't do it. Jalen's better than Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's pretty accomplished for a player. MVP, unanimous. Only Manning and him. Took a team to a 14-2 record. Has actually beaten Mahomes. Okay? Chiefs were, get this, a lesser team and won more games and a Super Bowl without Tyreek Hill. Without Honey Badger. They had to get rid of those two guys. Honey Badger was commanding $20 million. They said no. The guy in Miami wanted $25 million. They said no. They were the lesser of the last 3 years and won a Super Bowl still. And beat a better roster. You know why? Because the quarterback's better than you. And that's not there's no shame in that. There's no shame in that. Mahomes does that to everybody. This guy is putting a Hall of Fame resume together. There's no shame in that. I mean, like, he could be the modern day Brady. It's a pretty big statement, but he's putting a resume together where people are going, wow, man, this guy, he's 25 years old. He's 27 years old, and he's done all this already. Dude, he's almost put a Hall of Fame resume together already. Chiefs have a great roster. Really, take Chris Jones off. See the truth? He's lying. They have a linebacker, Chris Jones, 2 rookies at corner, 1 rookie safety, a free agent linebacker. They got 1 guy on defense. I don't know about you. Tone, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't both Eagle receivers have over 100 yards in the game against those rookie corners? Wouldn't like they killed them. Ask yourself this. $50 million. If Joe Burrow, is Joe Burrow $50 million? Yeah. Because he's a better quarterback. My problem with here's my problem with Joe Burrow. Seals, are you going to give Joe Burrow $50 million? Boy, I'll tell you what, I'm going to give him $50 million, but he's had some injuries, and it bugs me, and it worries me. Long-term contract for a guy who's had surgery and, been banged up. Organization hasn't been able to protect him. Am I going to use that against him? You're damn right I'm going to. Dude, you've been very good the last 2 years. You've been great. 2 AFC championship games, an AFC title, a Super Bowl, all of that. Everything we thought you were, you are. But you have been hurt. Jalen Hurts is not on Joe Burrow's level as a passing quarterback at all. Not close. Anything near it. Never will be. It's not who he is. He's in the conversation of Lamar Jackson. Marshall. That's what made the Patriots consistent. Brady wasn't breaking the bank, so you have a point, bro. Marshall. But remember something here, okay? And it's true. You're right, Marshall. Brady was never the highest paid player in the history of his career in New England. He started making all of his huge money when he was with the Buccaneers. He was always like a lower, and by the way, he restructured his contract, Marshall, to a point where this year his base salary was $25 million. They front-ended the contract. Okay? And right here, smoke goes, his growth is a factor. Well, how are you going to grow when you're taking players away from him? How is he going to continue to grow? That's the special key in Kansas City with, and by the way, he's also got another factor in Kansas City, Mahomes. Andy Reid. Your play callers in Philly are not the best. RPO is not an offense. You know why it doesn't matter if Brian Johnson or whomever is the coordinator? Because it's going to be up to Jalen. RPO is decision-making by the quarterback. It's not a play call. There hasn't been – you know why they took the play calling duties away from Nick? They didn't need him. The reason Nick Sirianni's not a play caller is because RPO's not play calling. It's Jalen's decision-making that makes that offense work. Not how is this? Think about it for a second here. So when he comes out, right, Tone? He snaps the ball, and he's reading the safety or the linebacker or the end. What do you think, like Steichen's in his ear on whether to pull it or throw it or block and release on the tide? You think that has been called in the huddle? That's not RPO. RPO gives the decision to the quarterback to make that split decision on the play. The success of the play has nothing to do with the sideline. Now, the structure and the framework of the offense having to have trust in Jalen. Jalen has built up equity on the sideline. Why? Because he's winning. That's why they can trust him like that. That's why the owner goes, he's really proven pretty much everything. This is how he's dreamed. Can I tell you why this is how he's dreamed? Jalen Hurts, doesn't matter who's on the sideline, especially offensively. It doesn't matter. Look at this stupid ass comment by The Truth. Yeah, in like 7 years, almost consecutively, Steve Young led the NFL in completion percentage. Okay? 7 years. When he left the game, he had the number one completion percentage of any quarterback in NFL history. That's not who that guy is. It's not fact comparing him to Steve Young. And by the way, Steve Young didn't last, my friend. He left the game because of a concussion, because of dual threat. Steve Young as a starter, how many years? Hey, 49er, how many years did Young start as a starter in San Francisco? 7? Was it 7? Not a high window, not a high ceiling for dual threat. Jalen ain't playing 10 years. You should put that into your conversation here when you're talking $50 million. He's going to miss games. He has already. Is he a $50 million guy with lesser talent? That's the fundamental question you ask yourself. And paying a guy just to pay him, congratulations, you're the Cowboys. You're the Cowboys. Well, you got to pay Dak. Remember all the media people? Pay Dak, pay Dak. Well, they did. Now look at the Cowboys. Is he a $50 million guy with lesser players? Oh, and a lesser defense. You're not getting 3 and outs anymore. That's completely, you're not bringing back the number 2 defense in the NFL. Shit, man. CJ and Bradbury, gone. Your linebacking core, gone. Hardgrave, gone. Because you're paying the guy. Now, if you're not paying Hurts, different story. Seals, we're going to restructure. How he's going to work his magic? No, he's not. How he worked his magic for only one reason. Jalen gave you an MVP year at a $1.4 million salary. Same reason why Brock Purdy got the Niners into the NFC title game. Made $900,000. You're not paying a quarterback. You got all them great talented players around him. The league hates the Niners and the Eagles. They don't want all that collection of talent. God forbid the player plays like... Dude, the front office in New York on Park Avenue probably shit a brick. Jalen played runner-up MVP, making $1.4 million. And you just saw a guy in Vegas cut who makes $42 million. The quarterback market takes a hit when you see this. Brock Purdy and Jalen Hurts. It takes a hit. Because, well, if I had Jimmy Garoppolo making $25 million, can I get to a Super Bowl and win it? Yeah. Or the only way the Eagles lost the Super Bowl, hey, why do you think the Eagles lost the Super Bowl? Is this fair to say? Tone, do you agree with this? The only reason that the Eagles aren't champions is because you ran into that guy. If it was any other player, possibly Burrow, because their defense is better, possibly Burrow. It took that guy to beat that roster. Dude, no other guy's beating that roster. That Eagle roster is as great a roster going into a Super Bowl as I've seen in a long time. Look at the truth goes, Jalen outplayed Mahomes. He did. He threw for more yards in 2021 too. So according to the truth, he'd rather have Jalen than Mahomes. Case closed. Some people can't be spoken to because they don't want to hear it. Quarterback knows I don't have to throw for 350 yards when I can run for 180 yards on you. Kansas City, the last two games against the Truth's Eagles, ran for 360 yards. They didn't have to throw it. They dominated you on the ground and stopped your run game. If you look, they basically took the 2021 game plan and beat you with it. Jalen threw for like 350 yards in that game. Okay. Mahomes threw for 277, 3 touchdowns. And they ran the ball for 200 yards. That's because the coach on the sideline knows what he's doing. Can you imagine? Hey, just think of this. Can you imagine Patrick Mahomes on the Eagles? 1,200-yard back. I don't know the last time. When's the last time he had a 1,000-yard back? Was it Kareem Hunt? I don't even know if he was there yet. Had he been dealt to Cleveland then? Could you imagine Mahomes on the Eagles with those wideouts to tight end, the running game, the O-line? Could you imagine Joe Burrow in Philly? Oh, my God. Joe Burrow in Philly with that O-line? You couldn't touch him? Lane hasn't given up a sack? Holy cow. Now, again, I'll ask you the crazy question. Is Jalen Hurts a quarterback that can lead your team to a Super Bowl win with lesser talent than what you've had this year? Yes or no? I say no. Can he win a Super Bowl with a lesser team? Marshall says, I think it all comes down if Hurts wants to be paid and have a great career. It's the ultimate decision, winning career or highest paid quarterback. Marshall, I think he wants to win. I think he's going to be, I'm not going to say team friendly, but I think he's going to be open-minded, if that means anything. I don't believe Jalen Hurts can lead that same team. Yes. He has a lesser team, a completely new defense. I don't. I do not. I do not believe that Jalen Hurts can lead a lesser Eagle team to a Super Bowl win. I do not. And I say this because you want to pay him 50, and that's the question. Pay him market price, rip your team in half, be a lesser team like Russell Wilson had, win games, but never the game. And there you have it. Remember something. The year Russell Wilson won the Super Bowl, he was on his rookie contract. It was never the same after that. And he went to the Super Bowl on still his rookie contract the next year. Once he got paid, all bets were off. I don't think CJ's leaving. Chris thinks that what's his name's going to pay Gardner Johnson $17 million while he's paying Slay $18. Interesting. Yeah. Russell Wilson was on rookie contracts when he went to those back-to-back Super Bowls. His roster was never the same after that. Lost Marshawn Lynch. You lost Bennett. You lost Cam Chancellor. Then you lost Richard Sherman. Before you know it, ran out of gas. That's why he's in Denver. It ran out of gas. Look, I'm asking you. Hey, watch this. Do I think They're going to pay him. I do. But you're going to have a lot of here, this is what the Eagle defense is going to look like. Here's my prediction. A lot of free agents and a lot of rookies will be on that defense next year, especially if you pay the kid. If you pay Hurts, free agents and rookies will be on that defense. And it will go from 2 to 15, maybe down lower. You're not going to have the same corners. Your safety position is going to be changed. Your linebackers, and you got to count on Nakobe Dean and Jordan Davis. Okay. All this is going to catch up here. Eventually, it was going to catch up. Too many guys were making no money. You understand that? Too many guys were making no money. Gardner Johnson making no money. Bradbury, undervalue. Kaiser White, TJ, all these guys under market value. All had great years. Okay? Wrong on Hurts the whole year. I said he'd get hurt, and he wouldn't throw for $4,000. All that planned out. And I said he'd get to the Super Bowl. Right all year. Don't forget, 4:30, Tony Dungy's going to join us. We'll talk to him about Jalen Hurts. Also, I got some free agents to target. This is Howie's forte. I'm going to throw some names at you.